Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you all step by step how to paint this little girl on a swing looking out at the sunset. I'm going to be working on a larger canvas today. This one is a 16 by 20. It's double primed and stretched. You can paint this on something smaller or even larger. And I'm going to be using the following colors here along with my number 50 filbert brush to start. I've got a large canvas, so I want to use a larger paintbrush. I'm going to be working on the sky first. I'll be creating long, sweeping, easy brush strokes just for the sky, and I'll be starting with light blue violet, and I'll go from there for the rest of the colors here. We've got titanium white, burnt sienna, dioxazine purple, phthalo blue, light olive green, neon orange, neon yellow warm, and cool. I'll have a full list of all the colors below this video in the description box. If you want to just click the bottom right arrow, click on that, it'll take you down below. You'll see a full description down there, a list of the colors, the canvas, and some links to other tutorials you might enjoy. So just with a little bit of water on my brush, I'm gonna dampen the canvas. Just wetting the canvas down a little bit prior to adding the paint really helps blend the paint out of your brush and across the canvas a lot easier. So I'm going to take my light blue violet and I'm just going to start adding it across the top of the canvas. I'm going to work my way down with the rest and adding some white as well. I'm going to pick up a little bit more to soften this. I want it to be really light, so we create that very soft, light, airy sunset feeling to this painting. And acrylic paint dries a little bit darker, so adding a little bit extra white will help prevent that from happening, and it'll keep the color nice and soft like this. Okay, I'm going to add some more white. Now if you want to create little scoops like this, that also can add a little bit more mood and dramatic effects to your sky. It's really simple. Just kind of scoop down a little bit like this. Okay, then I'm going to add a little bit of my light olive green, and I'm just going to go right down like this. You can create a little bit of a slope like this. It'll give your painting a little bit more perspective. Okay, so the next color I'm going to be adding is, well, I'll take a little bit more of my light olive green and I'm going to take a little bit of purple this time. Without over mixing, I'm just going to come up and down and just create this slope back here for a mountain range. And then I'm just going to sweep and gently fill this in. Now, if you're underpainting, your light blue violet and white paint is dry already, then you might want to add a little bit of white to this purple and green. And I'm also going to take just a little bit of that phthalo blue, mix it with the purple and the green, and I'm going to go right at the top here and just sort of outline. It's going to be darker up here and then be lit by the sun down here. Take just a little bit more. So we're going to sweep that color down a little bit. And then I'm going to just leave that for a little bit. And I'm going to come down here and add a few little shadows or darker patches in the grass. Those two colors again. You can even kind of tap if you want to create a little bit of a texture. And then sweep gently like this. So I'm going to go over to a number 10 flat brush, and without getting it wet, I'm just going to gently pull down. This is just a dry brush. This is just to blend this out. Remember, we don't want to bring it down too low because we want to keep some of this light in here. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush up, and I'm going to take some white and some neon yellow cool. Just on the tip of my brush here, and I'm going to add a brighter highlight where you can really feel that sunlight. And just in between some of those shadows. Just a little bit here and there is all you need. And then what I'm going to do is get a little bit of water on my brush, thin the paint out slightly, a little bit more white in there, crisscross to blend and load my brush, and then just going to sweep from this line right here, take a little bit more, just adding some extra golden sunlight that's gonna be behind those trees. Okay, and for the trees, I'm gonna start them just a little bit below. So right here, and that way we've got a little bit of these greens and yellows behind them. And I'm going to start with my purple, a little bit of phthalo blue. You don't need a lot of phthalo blue. It's really, really a dominant color. Okay, so I'm going to come right down here, and I'm going to just sweep down on a bit of a slope. And I'm going to switch over to one of my fan brushes, and I'll show you a really fun technique. I've got a few different sizes, and I want to keep these trees within this size. I don't want them to overwhelm and cover up too much of the light that we have going on back there. So this is a safe size. This one's a 0. And I want to get my brush wet, and then I want to just turn, pull in to those colors again. I'm going to add a little bit of my light olive green as well. We get a really nice, deep, dark, earthy color. And then just going to gently pull and start flicking up. Get a little bit more water on my brush. You need patience with fan brushes, and you really need to make sure you have, I'm going to bring this down just a little bit lower. You need to have enough water on your brush, otherwise you won't be able to sweep these very soft, feathery looking trees. Okay, I'm gonna just keep going here, taking those colors and loading my brush up again. Now keep in mind, even though we have a slope down here, don't start, and this is just naturally what we end up doing if we're not conscious of it. We end up going with that slope, and then our trees are going to be all on an angle like that. So even though that line is sloped, keep your trees straight up and down. You can also use a filbert brush for this too. I just really like how it splits apart like this, because then it just makes that instant forest, and it's kind of satisfying too to create this soft wispy look. Loading my brush again and again, adding water each time, so you can see it's quite saturated, and then lining it up, pull, flick. You don't need a lot of pressure. If you're finding that you feel like you need to push harder to create a brush stroke, then the chances are you don't have enough water on your brush. It's not always about not enough paint. That's the first thing we do when we're starting out, is we think we need more paint, or we think we need to push harder. Sometimes you do need to push harder for certain brush strokes, but for this one you don't. It's a very gentle, very light little flick, flick, flick. I'm just going like this. And then what I'm going to do is take some extra purple, and I'm going to go and add another layer. Make this one lower. I'm actually going to switch over to a filbert brush, and I'll demonstrate how you can use a filbert brush to create this effect as well, plus add some little treats in there. So I've got this number 10 here, and before I do anything, I'm just going to come underneath just with a dry brush and just clean this up. Just pull across gently. I'm going to dry this off, and then I'm going to come in with the next layers so we can create a little bit more depth and perhaps a few little trees that have some more visible branches. Okay, so I'm going to come in with my number 10 filbert brush. You can use, if you don't have this size, don't worry, just use one a little smaller or even a little bit bigger. And I'm going to come down here and add a darker layer. So sometimes a little bit more of the blue or the green will come out, and I think that's really beautiful. So you can see there's more purple in this area and a little bit more blue and green there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from down here. I'm just going to gently pull and flick up. Same technique. I need a little bit more water. We're going to have some taller trees on this side. Maybe these ones are coming down a little bit closer to us in the foreground. Gently. And then start tapping. I've got tons of videos on how to paint these trees. Simple for beginners, no matter what level you're at. Just tapping, same color, side to side, smaller and smaller at the very top. And you can go back with a little bit of light olive green without washing your brush off. Or you can wash your brush off and have just straight olive green. I like all the colors kind of blending together though. Okay, so I'm going to keep adding a little bit at a time here. Different sizes. And then sometimes you can just tap. You don't even need necessarily to pull out a tree trunk first. We've already got so many of those lines in there, right? That those can be our tree trunks. I'll come in with a little bit of my neon yellow and olive green, and I'm going to start adding some sunlight. We're leading up to the brightest sunlight here. It's going to be more in the center. And then down at the bottom, I want it to gradually go from dark and then get lighter and lighter. Because it's more in shadow down here and the sun is hitting this area here, not the very bottom of the trees. We'll just have a few that are a little bit bigger here, taller. See how nicely the filbert brush creates these branches. It's just so easy. So I always recommend, over the fan brush, I recommend filbert brush. Find over the years, my students have loved this. They always thought that they had to use a fan brush for our trees, but the filbert brush is just awesome. So I've just watered down my brush. There's barely any paint left in it, as you can see, very transparent, translucent. And I'm just going to come down here and create a few more shadows. I'm going to add a little bit of water to my brush. It's not as watery as I'd like it to be. then I'm going to go ahead and take some more, what's left of my neon yellow here, and I'll go over that. I'm going to go back up to the top of the mountain, and again, add a little bit more depth. A little bit of blue, green, purple, not too much, kind of transparent there. And we're just gonna follow along, just gently tracing over the top of the mountain. And right where it comes down here is where we're gonna have our sun. A little bit of water again and a little bit more paint, very gently. And then a gentle scumble or blending here. Okay, there's hardly anything left on my brush now, so just dry brushing in here. Come down a little bit further with some more of that watered down green. A little bit of green, more green than purple and blue this time. I'm gonna add just a little bit more down here. Because we want it to be the brightest in the center, we'll have it a little bit darker on the sides here. And I like to just gently scumble over after to get rid of any harsh lines. I'm going to demonstrate another brush to add some fuller, thicker bushes and trees here. This is my 1-inch oval mop brush. This is by Princeton. I recommend these all the time. They're great. They're probably my favorite out of all my mop brushes. And I'm going to take a little bit more purple, green, a little bit of blue, and just make that color again. And I'm going to just turn my brush this way, tap, tap, tap. Well, let's play up on the blue just a little bit more. Look how pretty that is. We've got the deep purple and the green and these blues. Let's add a little hint of it here along the edge. You can just even dry brush right over those trees. Just carefully where I went out of the lines here. Just take that off. Okay, and then with a smaller mop brush, this is another angle. Well, this is an angled, not oval, but you can use any small type of mop brush or even a filbert brush to do this. Take a little bit of my light olive green, a little bit of white and that blue. Just mix those colors up and start tapping in some subtle highlights. Okay, so I think that's just about ready to add the sun rays. Before we add the sun rays, I'm gonna add the sun right here, and we're not gonna see like a perfect circle, right? It's just gonna be all kind of just a bright area here, and then with sun rays coming out. So I'm gonna start with my white and a little bit of neon yellow. This is the warm neon yellow. I'm gonna apply it sort of in a circle first, but then I'm just gonna soften. I'm gonna bring it slightly over that little dip in the mountain. Pick up a little bit more. And then just soften, kind of dry brush around all the edges. Take some more white and add it inside. I'm going to add a little bit down here as well. Have some little patches here where it's coming through between the trees. Just a nice, beautiful golden bit of highlights. Just looking for my number 10 flat brush again. I want to create a golden filter. So I'm going to be using a combination of my warm yellow, my neon orange, and a little bit of burnt sienna with a little bit of water on my brush. Okay, and what I'm going to do, now you can leave yours like this if you want, but what I want to do is pull this over top and glaze. You want to make sure that your paint underneath is dry before you do this. I'm going to add a little bit over the sky as well. You don't have to add it over everything. You can just add it in some spots if you want, leaving some more of the blue and green areas exposed, because I think it's nice to have both. I'm just going to take a dry mop brush here and just kind of soften this. Put a little bit of water in there. Add a little bit in here, and a little in the foreground. Back over to my dry mop brush here. I'm going to bring some over the mountain. And a little bit more of that orange. So for my sunrise, I'm going to be using the same brush, my number 10 flat brush. I'm going to want to have, actually I'm just going to add a little bit more of my neon yellow cool. So a little bit more of that neon yellow cool, some white and water on my brush. We'll just mix it up here. If a little bit of that warm yellow gets in there too, that's okay. So you want it to be thin and transparent. And I'll try this and see if I've got enough water in my brush. I might need, I'll just add a little bit more because I think I probably will need some more. Okay, so we'll start, you want to make sure it's mostly on the tip of your brush. And we're just going to start like we do any other sun rays in our paintings, from the sun on angles. So just pull on an angle. That's why I like to use these flat brushes. So you get a nice straight edge. You can bring your sun rays over the front here a little bit if you want. I think it looks really pretty, just having a little bit through. I'm not going to hit all of the front rows, but some of them have spaces through where the sun rays are coming through, right? And if you accidentally go over too much and you don't like the amount that you have, you can go back and add more trees, more in silhouette, and that would look really beautiful. Now I'm going to take some bright white, tinted a little bit, but more white than anything this time. I'm going to add it there in the center. And just add a few more here. A little bit more white again. Make it really bright here. Just rinsing out my brush where it's a little bit drier and thicker looking there. I'm just going to soften. It actually kind of looks like angel wings and angel. That's neat. I don't know if you guys see that too. I always see extra things. I think that's part of being an artist. We just see a little bit more. Maybe you guys saw that before I even did. I don't know. Sometimes you guys are seeing things that I don't, and it's really interesting. I'm going to add a few more bright highlights here, you know, where these sun rays are peeking through. You can just line that up. And I'm just taking the yellows and the white and adding a little bit. And we can add some more down here. And then a little extra olive green. And just bring this over here in the foreground. Add a little bit more color. So this painting, just colors in it. the mood of it. Kind of just make me feel like that end of summer, beginning of fall vibes, which we're in right now. And then I'll just add a little bit of this green here, sneaking through. So the swing's going to be coming down right here and here. And then I'm going to start with what she's sitting on first. And then I'm going to add the handles of the swing on this side, paint her, and then finally the ones on this side. So we painted in order of layers. And I'm going to start with purple and burnt sienna for the swing itself. No water. We don't want her swing to be see-through. So I'm going to just go more towards the left here, okay? And we're going to go up about 2 inches. And I'm going to add a little line right here. A little scoop. And then a little line on an angle like that, because the swing is turned this way. Then I'm going to add a triangle right here. Right like that. Make this line a little bit thicker. I'm going to rinse my brush out. And I'm going to take some white, a little bit of the neon yellow, the warm. And I'm going to come on this side and paint in this triangle. Okay, I know it seems kind of weird, but breaking things down into shapes is really going to help you. And then go right across there. I'm going to take that purple scoop down there again. I'm going to take some more white, slightly tinted with a little bit of that yellow. Just go over that part again. You can go over your lines, highlights and shadows as often as you need to. Don't worry if you don't get it the first time, it's okay. Now I'm going to take a little bit of purple, white, kind of just add a little bit of burnt sienna in there, maybe a little bit of blue. Just make sort of a smoky grayish color. And she's going to be sitting right about here. And then we're not going to see the other end of the swing, right? Because she's sitting in front of it, but we know that we've got the handles of the swing. So we're just going to pull up. And just apply a little bit of water to my brush. Very gentle pressure. Now we could do this one here because she's not going to be sitting right on this end. Okay. I think we'll have some big branch up here later on. Then I'm just going to take that purple, blue, burnt sienna, tap, tap, tap. And instead of creating all the little links of the chain, I'm just going to tap, because right here it is going to be a little bit darker. So just tap, turning your brush narrow like this. You don't need to paint every single thing in full detail in your paintings, okay? That's one thing that really needs to be mentioned, because I think that that's why so many people give up. They're like, there's no way I can paint that. There's just, you know, that's so much detail and I can't do that. You really don't have to add that much. Just a suggestion, less is more. Pick a few things that you do add details to. Add a little bit more white and that beautiful golden warm yellow. A little bit right off the edge here. I'm going to add a little bit of golden yellow highlights here. Just lightly tap where the light would be hitting these ones. Just little taps. Going to be brighter on this side. Hope you guys are enjoying this tutorial so far. I really love bringing new tutorials to you guys and love seeing all your versions on our Facebook group. I'm going to add a little bit as well on this side here, just little taps. Okay, so now I think we'll start working on adding the figure. And I'm going to be using some purple, bloom, burnt sienna. We're going to keep in all those same sort of color tones for now, just for the first initial part here. And we're going to just pull across like this. We're going to pull up right about here. So kind of rounded to where her shoulder's going to be right there. I'm going to take a little bit more of my orange burnt sienna now. I need this dark in here so that it's not see-through, right? So right now it kind of looks like a triangle. Remember again, those breaking things down into shapes really helps. Okay, so we've got her shoulder here. I'm gonna bring this out just a little bit. Add some little bit of white, yellow, and orange. I'm not gonna overmix. And maybe we've got a little bit of light filtering in the back side there. We could add a little bit more later. Go back to our purple burnt sienna. So the shoulder, a little scoop for the neck. Let's add a little bit of white and yellow. We're going to come down here, a little bit of orange and the yellow. So we're just going to be adding some light to the front of her dress and some pleats. I know it looks weird now, but just stay with me, guys. This is about the time where people think that they've screwed up and they have to throw their painting out and start over. Just for the end of my filbert brush here, just creating some light going down and some folds here in her sleeve. Come down narrow right here. Add her foot and then her leg right here. Other leg here. Okay, and then we can take, once you have applied your foot and your leg, you can kind of go back and say, okay, that part's a little bit thick. I need to come in here where her heel comes out, take a little bit of this off. And it's really easy to do this with acrylic paint. But her dress does come down a little lower here. Make her feet just a little bit shorter so that we know that it's a little girl. And then I'm going to take my warm colors here, peachy colors, and go over and add a highlight on her legs. And the top of her foot. And then back into my darker colors. We'll add her head. A little bit more burnt sienna and purple in here. And just keep going with our highlights. I want to add a little bit more light from the sun around her head here. So I'm just going to tap in my neon yellow with my white. And then give her some pigtails here. So I'm adding the light bits first. And then I'll come in with the dark. So pull and then add a little bit inside. Pull out. Okay, I'm going to switch over to a 0 filbert brush, and I'm going to add some more light within between here, her head and her ponytails. Side of her face. A little bit more of this peachy color. I think I want to add a little bit of burnt sienna to it though, just to make sort of a chestnut hair color here. And then I'll add that light back here, filtering through the back side of her dress. I'm going to take some burnt sienna and bring this kind of triangle shadow reflection down a little bit lower. Washing my brush out, I'm going to go back over to my white and the neon yellow. Just with a little bit on the tip of my brush. And we'll take some more of the yellow, saturate the color of her dress and the highlights a little bit more. And I'm going to add just straight purple now right down here for the lowest part of the shadow. A little bit more orange and yellow. And we'll start sweeping her dress down. A little bit more light filtering through. And just creating some folds in the dress. With some white and whatever orange, yellow. Okay, so I'm going to go back to adding some more black, or not black, you could use black if you want, Dioxazine purple. The Dioxazine purple is really dark. I think that it's dark enough. I'd rather use a color than just black because I think it all works well together. So we're just adding a little bit more here to the shadows. And this foot here, a bit orange shadow. And then I'm going to take, with a clean brush, orange and yellow, and go across the top of this foot. And pull up. Take a little bit of burnt sienna. And we're going to add a little bit more orange and yellow across the top here. It's important to have those the darker base, because that is what helps you build up all the depth. So there are some, like her hand is down here, and so there's some fingers down here, but I don't want to try to add all those fingers. So I'm just going to add a few little lines in here. Right, just keep that as a suggestion that they meet her dress, or hands coming down there into her dress. And then I'm going to add more highlights here with my neon yellow and my white. So the sunlight's going to be hitting right here. You really want to have that paint on the tip of your brush too. And then after going over and adding that really bright highlight, I'm going to take some off. Add just a little bit more on this side. I'm going to come down here, burnt sienna, a little bit of purple. And where we have our folds in our dress, we're going to add a little bit of a shadow in between. Now you can make your shadow a little bit lighter if you want. And I'm just using a little bit of purple to start, and then coming in now with my burnt sienna. This is going to make her arms stand out a little bit more by doing this, so we can separate, right? Because it was all just kind of getting lost before all together. And now just coming in between those folds, it stands out more. We could add a little, I'm not really sure what's going on here with her hand. I don't want to try to add fingers, and can be a little bit difficult painting fingers. So what I'm going to do is just add a little flower there. But before I do that, I want to just clean up this edge right here. And a little bit down here. So I'm going to go back over to my light olive green. Take a little bit of the yellow, white. Otherwise it's just going to be transparent, see-through, right? So I don't want it. I want it to be opaque. So I'm adding some of that titanium white down here. And just over that little bit of blue-gray mixture. So I'm going to add a little bit more white here. Just matching these colors up. A little bit more olive green in there. I like how we have this slope here. I like creating all that movement in a landscape. And it's so easy just by creating little sweeps and slopes, little scoops with our brush. And you can just really transform a painting. You can change it so much. So you want to bring out a little bit more green in this painting and saturate it a little bit more. You can very easily go over top, as I'm doing here, just with straight light olive green. And my white is drying a little bit darker, which is normal, that happens. So I'm just going to take a little bit more here. I want to really feel that sunlight through her hair. My daughter used to, oh, I loved it when she'd have pigtails. She didn't like me putting them in, but she sure looked cute with them. And she liked it after, but trying to add those pigtails and braids when she was little, she'd always fuss so much. So I'm just adding more and more highlights. You see, you gotta take your time and build up those highlights. But it's so enjoyable, right? Just painting just takes you to another place and it's so relaxing. Okay, some more highlights in the grass and down below here. Feel just a little bit more light in here, so just a little bit of olive green and white. And remember, just keep it sort of patchy. We've got this beautiful olive green here. We've got lots going on. We've got the shadows, the mid-tones. And let's add another layer of white here. Make that really bright. I'm going to add a little flower, like I mentioned. Before I do that, and I'm going to add the other part of the swing there. More highlights here. I'm going to add the flower first. So I'm going to take green and purple, and I'll just have her holding a few flowers here. Now a little bit more green just for the stem. Some leaves, just dab dab. Add some more. Maybe some are just kind of falling down here. And a little bit of green. No water. Then a few little daisies, just with white. Remember, it doesn't have to be too detailed. I want these to dry a little bit darker, of course, because they're in shadow here, right? And then I'm just going to add a little bit of green to the center, or maybe add a little bit of blue and purple in with that as well. You can decide what flowers you want. It really is just, like I always say, just a suggestion. Don't make everything in your painting 100% detailed. You could have her wearing shoes too if you want. Just add whatever color you want. Or just little ballet flats is cute too. Okay, we're gonna have to do the other part of the swing now. So I'm gonna take purple, blue, maybe a little bit of white, burnt sienna, just get some dark base. And I'll go from here and then up to there, right from the corner here. And just take off a little bit here. Make it a little narrower. And then we can come in with our white. Tap for the chain. So I used my bigger filbert brush before, but you can use, it's just the tapping that you want. It doesn't matter. You can use a flat brush, round brush, filbert brush, liner brush. I'm gonna just take a little bit of that neon yellow warm. And now I'm going to add a branch up here. So I'm just going to keep using this brush. Purple, blue, burnt sienna, maybe pulling a little bit of green there. I don't want to over mix too much. And have a big branch coming from here from tree above. Before I finish that up, I just noticed I want to take a little bit more of my burnt sienna, a little bit of the yellow, a little bit of white in there. Make it a little bit light in the center there where it would, you know, split in half to make those ponytails. And then just a little bit more purple for some extra shadows. Okay, and back over on the side here, just some wiggly branches, not a lot of pressure. We're going to come down and add some moss and leaves. I'm going to use my favorite oval mop brush, my 1-inch again, and I'm going to take some purple and some of my light olive green. I haven't got this brush wet. You want to approach this dry, straight into the paint, and I'm just gonna tap, tap, tap like this. And we can take a little bit more of that green, tap over a little bit more. Pull and wisp if you want to create a little bit of moss kind of weeping down. Okay, well, I really enjoyed this painting. I hope you guys did too. Thanks so much for watching today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more and join Patreon if you'd like to help support the videos and art tutorials that I make. And I'll leave a link down below if you'd like to check that out. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you soon in my next video. Bye!